I'm going to call the meeting to order. We will start with a roll call. We have Bonnie Sears. Sorry, no, that's okay. Sometimes I just get confused. Bonnie Sears, Bridget Powers, myself, Rebecca Hansen. Welcome back to Mike Ahern, Chris Buckley, and Brian Murphy. We have only 4 members. Were all of us here at the last meeting, or do we want to hold off on the minutes until we have a enough of them?
I wasn't here.
Okay, so let's hold off. Can we hold off on the minutes until we have a good representative of people who were at the last meeting? Next up, new business, an application from David Sanborn, owner PID number 109-048, for a site plan approval, change of use from solely a restaurant occupation to a brew pub, tasting room, and restaurant. Dave, you want to come up and present?
Sure. I am David Sanborn from the Last Chair and 1766 Brewing Company, and we are proposing to put a brew pub in the old Anderson's Bakery. So you guys should have a layout of all that fun stuff. I tried to get this bigger. The machine was down at colors. Other thing I tried to do, last time I was here, this guy had a really cool pointer, laser,
Yeah.
but the kids broke it, messed with that. So what we're planning on doing is, this is the front of the building here, and we've gutted all of this, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen going downtown. So we're gonna make this all open in here, and then have the bar where you can see it on the map that you have. And it's just basically gonna be all wide open. We're only gonna go to, there's a white beam that comes across here. This was an addition in the back, and it's above Keith's Pizza. So we're just gonna go to here from now, because once Keith's Pizza is out, we wanna be able to start from the bottom and work our way up. We don't wanna get this all done in here and then go underneath and go, oh, cool. We gotta shore this up, we gotta shore that up, like we have found in the whole thing, like Brian saw today. Downstairs, we're putting the kitchen. We'll have the beer cooler, a walk-in cooler for the food, and eventually, when Keith's Pizza is gone, we would like to brew in the back here.
Does anyone have any questions about the completeness of this application? I will point out there are a number of waivers in the application. I think a lot of these are due to just the fact that this is an old existing building. We're not building a new building or expanding an existing building. So any questions about any of those? Would anyone like to make a motion to accept this application as complete?
Oh.
We can hold on for just a second.
Did someone move on that?
Nobody has moved on that, but I just want to give Mike, make sure Mike has a
Oh,
chance
okay.
to, did you want to review?
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, you know, a brewery, what does that consist of? You know, what do you need to brew beer? A little tiny thing, or these big I have no idea. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, out at the chair now, we have like big 7-barrel stainless steel fermenters, and well, basically they're uni tanks. So we're still gonna be brewing out there, and then we're gonna have a smaller system here for now, which is, you know, like a home brew. They're like 5-gallon, you know, 5-gallon buckets that you can make a smaller batch out of until Keith's is gone. And then we're gonna move some of the smaller vessels here, where we can then brew here and go right into a holding tank, which then will be connected right to the taps upstairs.
Oh.
So there's no kegging or anything, it's just from there into your mouth.
Okay.
Exactly where we want it to be.
Because that's.
No
makes
glass
everybody happy.
necessary, yeah.
Yeah. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I just had no idea.
You should go out to the chair, last chair, and
Yeah, and
Field trip.
then I
see
could,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll show you the brewer. The ones there are a little over 8 feet tall and
yeah.
they're pretty cool looking.
Well, yeah, it's quite interesting, actually. I just never have had anything to do with it, so.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun.
I'm just curious, does it take a lot of water to make beer? More than just the amount of the beer?
Yeah, I mean,
is
well,
there-
it's, there's a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of that. The well that we have out at the chair is really good. So the concern is when we come downtown, it's a totally different water. So we have to put a really good filter in.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Right.
You will,
So,
definitely.
We lucked out at the chair. It's really good water.
Huh.
So it's that White Mountain glacier water.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the completeness of this application? Everyone's okay with all the waivers? All right.
I'm assuming that. I mean, I'm not,
They all make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the notes in the side note. That helps just understand.
yeah, that's kind of what I went on with the notes, and seemed legit.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept this application as complete.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, so now moving on to more of the guts of the application. Any other questions beyond the completeness of the application for the applicant?
Where are the restrooms at?
Right here. There's a handicap and a,
Oh, okay.
how do you say it? There's a handicap bathroom and a regular sized bathroom?
Standard,
Standard bathroom? I didn't want to say normal or something.
Non-accessible.
That's probably not politically correct. either.
inaccessible.
So the brewing facility that's out on 3A or 25,
Yeah.
that will stay there for the time being? Or when will you start the process of manufacturing it or making it on Main Street?
Yeah, so that's gonna stay there. So the long-term plan is that we'll be brewing out there because it's a bigger spot.
So you'll always stay there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just because the chair, feed the chair, and if we start distributing with like Amoskeag or New Hampshire distributors or something like that, and then this is another just brew pub that we can, because it's it's named after Plymouth, something that happened in Plymouth, and we're all about like our beers are named about things that happened in Plymouth, so it just makes sense to find a spot downtown. So we will be brewing in both locations. So we'll have like beers that we'll brew for the chair that you won't have at the pub here, but we'll have beers here that we'll put on just at the pub that you won't get at the chair. You know what I mean? Just to kind of make it.
Go ahead, if you had another follow-up.
So when you first open up, you will start the process of making it.
Yeah, we have to. We have to.
Where will you start? So eventually you'll take over Keith's, you're saying?
Yep.
So for now, you use the other part of the basement? I've never
Yeah.
been down, okay.
Yeah, so the basement, so we're gonna be over here, and getting back to what Bonnie said earlier, it's a smaller homebrew system, so it's gonna take up, like an 8-foot stainless steel table.
Okay.
Compared to like out at the chair, you've probably seen them, like, it's a lot bigger area. So you're talking about a smaller section to brew in, and then a smaller fermenter that's in the walk-in cooler doing its thing, and, it's a lot smaller batch. And the reason we have to do that is because we need 2 TTB licenses, one with the federal government to show where we're brewing, and the reason we need 2 different TTB licenses because the state, you have to, if you're gonna be a brew pub, you have to brew in that location. So we can't call this a brew pub, brew at the chair, then bring the beer down. We have to brew something there. So for now, for us to get our license until Keith is out and we get our equipment down here, we're allowed to do like a small homebrew system, something like that. Sounds like a lot of work, right?
Are you gonna keep the tasting room out at the last chair location?
No, because everybody, not to bore you guys, but everybody comes to the chair, and we have all the beers on tap in the chair, and they can go into the chair and get food and blah, blah, blah. When over at the tasting room, we can only do 4-ounce tasters until we have food out there. That's a whole
Right, okay,
thing.
yep.
Even though the chair is 80 feet away, we can't have food until we get it. So, to answer your question, no.
Yep.
That'll close, yes, that'll close down.
Are you still thinking of having an upstairs, like a roof seating, outside seating?
At the chair? Or here?
Down here.
No.
Were you ever? I heard something about it.
You did?
I did. I'm sorry.
You never told me, I blabbed it all over town.
Yeah. That's so far down the road if
Oh,
we
really?
ever decide to
Yeah.
why you want a rooftop deck?
I like being outside. I like
No.
rooftops, yeah.
Everybody's asked me that, and it's been one of my harebrained ideas, but when you really sit and look at it, I'm gonna shovel that thing for how many months? For 2 months out of the year that we can sit
Yeah,
up on the, oh, okay.
exactly. Yeah, I guess
Yes,
would
you
have.
are, Dave.
Yes, you are.
Make that a condition.
That's right.
Great, thanks.
I don't understand the drawing, and that's my own ignorance here, but what is this space in the proposed that seems to be getting larger?
So, are you looking at this one? Can you see this
Yep.
one? So this is the front, so the way, are you talking about this space in the back?
No, on the space on the right side.
Right here?
Nope, keep going further. Right, no, right. This right here.
No, that's just the line showing how long it is.
Okay,
That's probably just my bad drawing.
okay.
This section in here?
Well, this says 36
Yeah,
on the existing,
right.
and this says 59.
So ours are
Oh,
labeled,
this is a window.
Okay,
The window is 59 by 54.
okay,
So that's just showing where it says W, that's the windows for the fire department, so they know where the windows are.
okay.
And this was just my line showing how long from the front south corner to the back to the east south corner.
Okay.
So when Samantha drew this, she didn't do very
This is actually where they're labeled existing and proposed. I think it's downstairs and
Yeah,
upstairs.
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
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 Now it's making sense to me.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Proposed is the main floor, and then existing is the basement. Will you still be doing live music?
Maybe somebody with just a guitar, not like, I don't want to do, well, plus all the codes that go with it. I don't want to be a nightclub.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Any other questions from the board before I open it up to the public? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're gonna make donuts?
Right, we have no bakery. We
I
do
haven't,
some donuts.
yeah, I haven't had too many people ask me that. Yeah, how many people have come to the door? Oh, I thought this was a bakery. I'm like, no, we're gonna be putting a brewery in here, hopefully. Oh, I'm like, oh, cool.
Donut flavored beer?
I said that. I said, how about a Boston cream ale?
Ale.
Or a burger in a donut.
Yeah.
We've been looking at, that's the thing. We've been looking at different burgers because that's what we mainly want to do is burgers. And there's a honey glazed burger.
There is,
with a
I've seen
donut.
it.
Now I'm a huge donut lover. You don't get a double chin from not loving donuts. But in a burger,
Sounds like a heart attack,
Yeah.
yeah.
but it sounds delicious.
But you have to try it, yeah.
Just have
With
one in each hand.
bacon, it has to have bacon on it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put a hold on our menu suggestions so we can open up to the public hearing. It is now 6:46, and Frank, come on up.
Well, I'm Frank Miller, and I stand in enthusiastic support of this. And with the addition to the solar roof for the addition for the roof access, nice solar panels on there, I think it'd be great, keep the shoveling down. But for this use and all the work is doing to restore a structure in downtown, making a good use, and a lot of history in the building. And I think this is really helpful to maintain our business community and an old structure, and I definitely stand in support. And a solar roof would be just...
We'll put it on the list with the donut.
Yeah. All right, it is now, I'm assuming there's no other public comment, or menu or structural suggestions. It is now 6:47. I'm closing the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the board. Any other comments or things that you like on your hamburgers that you like to bring up to the applicant?
I think you've been here too many times,
Yeah.
Dave. It's-
We've got your frequent visitor punch card, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Well, I like the intention to maintain the historical significance of the building and keep the table as the baking table. I think that's nice and adds to the character of the town, which is something that's in keeping with the master plan, which is nice.
And with the wedge shape of the building, was that to fit a particular lot, or?
Who knows?
It's not,
We looked at that all day today, and Dave's been in there for hours and hours, but it makes no sense.
Some of the stuff that was done in there, you just scratch your head like when Brian came today and I brought him downstairs, I was like, there were 18 lally columns down here. And we've got it down to 1. And even that one's bothering me. The amount of stuff that was in that basement, 7 30-yard dumpsters to gut the entire place. But like Frank just said, the history and stuff like in Plymouth that we're finding out is really cool. Like Ross is over there featuring every day. And Lynn met with on Wednesday Mary Durgan and her brother. What's her brother?
Charlie?
Charlie. She brought the kids over, met with him and Mary, and found out even some more cool stuff. So it's just we're gonna have stuff like that on the wall. Some of the pictures that Mary and Charlie gave to her, we'll have them on the wall. Ross gave us a tennis racket and a baseball bat, originals from the D&M, that we'll be able to put on the wall. So the historic society's been really cool too. So.
So my family has kind of some history with that building. It was my great uncle Ora Jocks who built the building, and he started to build it, and I guess he didn't have all the proper permits. Something happened, but someone from the town came over and talked to him on a Friday afternoon. He said, they're going to shut you down and stop you, but if you finish it by Monday morning, they can't make you take it down. So my uncle Ora got friends and the family all together. They had it all done, or to a degree that it was finished by Monday morning.
Is that why some of the things were done already?
Yeah, so there's some interesting things, I guess.
Maybe they'd only gotten 21 feet of the front done, so they just they're like, oh, we'll just do the wall that night.
So there was
Your family built it?
Yeah. So there was a bar, I believe, downstairs originally.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
That my Uncle Sonny, I think, was the bar back down there, and it was called the Village Green Cafe.
Yeah, that was upstairs too.
Yeah, so I have an old menu from back
No
then,
way.
yeah. Somewhere in my belongings, somewhere.
You get a photocopy of that?
Yeah, I could do that, yeah.
Oh, man. Do you know what year it was built? Not to get off topic,
I don't know, but my grandmother, my dad's mom, was the baker for him. So I still have her original donut recipe that I still make donuts for my kids.
There you go!
He makes the
got him now.
donuts.
But it's not the same recipe that Dot had or anything like that. It's the one that was made back
That's
then.
super cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man. Yeah, if anything you have.
I'll stop in.
Because like I said, we're putting stuff on the walls about Plymouth, and like I said, since the beer's named after Plymouth history or things that have happened between now and then, that would be fantastic.
I don't know how much is family folklore, but that's the story that was always told to me.
I'm trying to find out the year it was built, because they have a picture of, Ross had a picture of the cafe with, the guy's last name was, what the heck was his last name? Roulette, that owned it, in that particular picture.
I've got a picture with the year outside of the restaurant with 3 of my uncles. And I don't know what year that was. The oldest would be 112 or so right now, if you were alive.
Wow.
Guessing.
That'd be really cool.
100, maybe more.
That'll totally get you like a free burger or something.
Yeah. No.
I don't know. I don't know about a donut.
No.
Yeah. All right, well, before we, if anyone has other questions, comments, before we make a motion, I just want to point out that and I believe that the applicant is aware of the, as a condition is before we, conditional approval is with the approval of the ZBA on the waiver, right, is that what I'm looking at? Special exception for the manufacture of goods and services. So when I just want to make sure we acknowledge that.
What qualifies as manufacturing?
Manufacture of goods and services sold on premise, and it doesn't say. So, print shop is a special exception use downtown. We have 2 of them. A bakery is a special exception use, which we unfortunately don't have any anymore. But it's just an old legacy thing. I don't know what they were trying to make Main Street become. But it might have been the fear of, since there was active manufacturing in the region back in the day, maybe they didn't want that happening on the main street.
And I kind of see this as something other than manufacturing. For
Yes.
me, it's like
But
cooking.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Fermenting.
It's- yeah.
It's a process, it's not really manufacturing, but I'm sure the RSAs probably have something to say about it.
Hang on one second, Frank. But I think it might have something to do with the fact that I'm imagining you'll be selling growlers and cans of
Yeah.
beer. So I think the fact that it is goods that will be removed intact,
Okay.
not interior.
not consumed
Yeah.
on premises. And that's something that I'm going to be wanting to bring forward in amendment season, is to straighten out just what they mean by that. So we could, allow.
By manufacturing?
Yeah, so you could allow bakeries and print shops, or something of that nature where you're doing it on site, a tailor.
Be more specific about what that means.
Yes,
like why-
absolutely.
Why is that require
It's
a
very,
special
very
exception?
gray, and we've already, well, not for the downtown, but it's also a special exception use in the agricultural zone. So Sarah, the baker out in Cooksville, needed a special exception to get her place open. Who knows?
Well, nothing makes sense about the agricultural zone, so.
Right.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the application with the, with the understanding that it would not go forward unless they got their special exception from the zoning board.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks. Can I get in touch with you about the pictures stuff?
Yeah.
So Dave, there's also one of the librarians, Rebecca at the library, is right now digitizing a pretty big collection of historical photographs.
Is that the one you were talking about? Yeah.
I'm not sure what the name of it was that we were talking about at the trustee meeting today, but she might be useful to get in touch with.
Yeah, I think Lynn's gonna head up there, now that he told me about the Smith collection too, see what they have, because he said there's a lot of pictures of the building. It should be really cool. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we're calling this the final draft of the master plan. I just need a little bit of feedback on a couple of things. I spent a lot of time on this weekend. I really don't want to spend any more time editing this document if possible.
Well, I found 16 errors. No.
It's okay, I can fix errors, but if I have to start like moving pages around and, yeah, I got upset about it a little bit. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the signature page. I think we talked about this. Did we decide we don't need a signature page? Do we need a signature page? The last one doesn't have one, but the last one's on the website as a Word document, so.
It's not a signature page from the board, it's the signature from the clerk, right? Was that?
Maybe I should look at it.
I seem to remember from those many examples that Steve gave that the signature page included acknowledgements of people who participated, as well as a listing of the planning board members and signature of the chair.
That's on page 69 right now. The
Yeah,
acknowledgements.
we just, I do remember that we thought about we wanted to put the acknowledgement page at the end. That was something we had talked about a while ago, so that is, yes, on the last page. I didn't distinguish between who is a current planning board member and who is a past planning board member, if that's okay, or same with the select board. So I would lots of like feedback on that page to make sure you guys like the way it looks and that I didn't forget somebody. I took it off, Brian, the list you gave to me. So.
You just add past and present to this, all citizens and volunteers who contributed.
Sorry, what did you say?
The sentence above the list is all citizens and volunteers who contributed to the master planning process, past and present. That would explain some of the old members on there.
Yeah.
Sharon.
That sentence I was including mostly to thank the people that participated in all the workshop sessions without having pages of thank yous, so.
And I was gonna say, you could in like parentheses, just put current after the members who are still on there, if we felt it necessary to differentiate.
I guess I think that's up to us to decide. I feel like everyone, I think, had a voice in this process, whether or not it was, this meeting or a meeting 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine, yeah, so, for me, but
I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine
it's
with
a
it.
lot cleaner looking that way too, but, yeah. Okay, so we'll figure out what needs to be on the signature page if we need a signature page. The table of contents, which is on page 3, and it's very exciting that I can say it's on page 3 and we can actually turn to the page. Just this page. Does that cover, I'll probably take the table of contents off there because that doesn't need to be on it. Does that cover everything or do we need more detail? I think we talked about keeping it fairly simple.
I think it's great.
There's a lovely picture on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful picture.
And so the only other thing is a scan to make sure that everything looks fine. I'm pretty sure I got most of the edits, but like I said, this was making me feel like a crazy person trying to get through all. It was 70 pages. I did cut it down by 1 page, so. Oh, and the one other thing was on the table of contents. I do say that Plymouth Data Book supports information as master plan. The data book, survey, and workshop summaries and maps can all be found on the Town of Plymouth website. So it's the only mention of that I put that there. I think in a couple other places it does say maps are on the website. So. Okay. Anything else?
The signature page, I think you have it there. It's a simple matter of, it's just signing it. I think it's just sort of taking responsibility for the master
Yeah.
plan. I don't see Isn't that what it looks like? We
Yeah.
just all sign the thing and,
You know,
I mean,
the 2018 planning board members.
All right, I will make a signature line for,
I don't think that'll ever come back to haunt us someday. Like, hey, your name's on that.
so, and we could potentially just leave that blank when we send this out, because we'd like to get this on, so next thing to talk about is timeline. So, we'd like to get this, the data book, in its 3 chapters, and any of all the maps. How am I gonna write this down? Here we go. So, the master plan, data book. And we can change the name, we don't have to call it the data book, but
Right.
I don't,
I like that.
fewer edits, so chapters 1, 2, and 3. And then maps. And then workshop summaries, there were 4 of those. And I think, Brian, you have all this stuff, right?
Yeah, I gotta dig it out.
Yeah.
If I don't, I'll just put out a call. You guys have collections of this, right? Was it ever presented back to you?
I think it was, but at this point, it's,
Okay.
yeah. So then there was the vision session. I will give you a distinct list, and then, yeah. So Chris, I don't know if you had a time to look at any of the edits from the,
To look at the
The-
edits
the-
or
the
do
data book.
to look at the data book.
Yeah.
So here's, this I marked up a long time ago, and I
Okay.
think, and the other 2 sections, you know, I couldn't, one was like 70-something, you know, they're gigantic, and it's a lot of technical information. You know, it looked, formatting looked
Yeah.
fine. I wrote down one little thing that, I just referred to it on the page number on volume 1.
okay.
And they looked fine to me. That one I actually made some suggestions,
Yeah.
but,
And this one might have been, I feel like it's been edited by Reagan since then, so I think just looking at the fonts.
Yep.
And I think she went through and like fixed all the
Yes.
discrepancies in the fonts and stuff like that, so.
but if anyone wants to look at that again, I've held on to that. I did that a while ago, so,
Do you want me to take that?
for what it's worth. This,
Oh, sorry, the little scrap with
yeah, the little scrap paper. And you'll see that sentence has a, like a period, and it just doesn't make sense. And it was the only thing like that I saw, but I couldn't read the whole thing especially I was reading it online, but like a fine tooth comb, but.
The student that went through it she's a good editor, she's a good writer,
Yeah,
so,
look good.
so I think that she was able to do a lot of that. And I did put her and the, other student that helped us with the layout in the acknowledgements, but Reagan in particular, she did this during her summer. She's graduated, she doesn't need to come back, so, so I will do that, and, Brian, I will, I think at this point, I might just, I'll get you your thumb drive back with all the stuff I have.
Okay.
But I'm gonna keep, you know, anything we have should go up as a PDF, I think, as opposed to a Word
Yes.
document. And, yeah, so I'll get you all that stuff, but
Well, since you sent it to me, I can convert it.
don't do that. Oh, no, sorry, it's in a PDF. This is already in a PDF.
Oh, okay.
I thought you meant convert the PDF into a Word
No,
document.
no,
I was
no,
like,
no.
that will mess
I
everything up.
had it backwards.
Yeah.
So this is ready to go up, if that's the case. Unless you
Yes.
want to do those final.
There's a couple
tweaks.
tiny tweaks that
Okay.
I think that this can go up as is. I mean, I'm talking like, I'll delete the line that says table of contents and what page and then adjust a photo.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's good to go. That will give everyone, if you find any other errors, if you have some time to look over it between now and the next hearing, then we can correct those. But yeah, so I'll send you, Brian, a list of everything we'd like to see up there.
Okay.
And, wow, this is exciting.
Will the data book be online too, so people can look at that? Because
Yeah.
I think that is the type of thing, we'll get feedback on technical data that I wouldn't know if it's right or
Accuracy.
not.
Yeah.
You know, accuracy, exactly.
Because yeah.
Like 7,000 homeless people. in
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly,
That's
those
exactly
numbers.
it.
Yep, people will catch that.
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, That's great when they do, because that will help
Oh,
us
yeah,
also.
yeah.
Um,
That's-
All right, so we'll get that up as soon as possible. Brian, I can talk to Donna Rhodes about.
I'll make sure that you get, I'll email you all her contact
Okay.
information.
Okay.
as well.
Yep. And then.
And I already clued her in, so
Okay.
she's waiting for it.
Great. And then, Chris, maybe we can, I'm totally fine for a letter to the editor, so, if you want to send that, if we want to send it from the Plymouth Planning Board, I can email it around. How do we want to do this?
So you would prefer that as a letter to the editor and, well, because,
I think if we are going to get a actual story in the paper, like, we don't need a press release.
Okay.
I think, but a letter to the editor, I think, is us asking, and I don't have a copy of it, here to share, but I don't want to be going around email asking for approval on something. Do you want to kind of summarize what it says, and then?
basically it gave it told, and I can't remember the exact order of things, but it gave information like what a master plan is, and that it's important that we've already got feedback from the town, but we want more, because I'm basically trying to get the town to take ownership and give feedback, and mention the first public hearing, and I think it even said the first public hearing, indicating there'd be another one, and, all the information, time, date. Now, that date, I might have, afterwards, I was second-guessed myself, but that's why I sent it to you.
Yeah, and I will double check the date. Is everyone okay with, that basically summarizes what I saw in the email. I'm happy to circulate it, but I'd like to get it out sooner rather than later, and I'm happy to have it just come from Chris, but I think if it just comes from the Plymouth Planning Board, then, is that sufficient, the summary from Chris? Okay, all right. So I'll just take that and I'll send it I'll figure out how to send it to the editorial.
Right in the front of the newspaper, they
Yeah.
tell you how to send a letter, and you could do it, electronically, obviously.
Yeah.
Drop off a letter these days, but I remember doing that in the past.
I still do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final thing is, we talked about doing a brief presentation before the public hearing, which is on September 5 or 6?
6th, I think.
Let me see, I got it right here. Yep, 6th.
So I was pretty much going to just cover basically the vision chapter. I think we talked about I'd try and do the presentation. And I was just going to basically cover what a master plan is, the work that's gone into it, what our vision is, and then a little bit about how we use this plan. We'll highlight that this is not a regulatory document. This is something that is guiding the creation of regulatory documents that will then go through town meeting to be approved. I'll introduce the data book and the implementation, and then open it up for the public. Anything? Yes.
Were we going to use the following Thursday for the second public hearing, which is a non-scheduled? You guys should normally get that night off.
I think we're gonna make that call when we see, we can, I'm happy to do that. Do we have some applications coming in for September that you know of?
Yes,
Okay.
the Cyber Spoons, the VR cafe, will be coming back.
Okay. Cyber Spoons?
That's the name of it.
The Froyo place?
Yes.
Ah, okay, now I know.
Now it's all making sense.
I think we agreed on that works for most people, so that'd be September 13th. Would you be able to take a poll? Is that something you could do, poll the board to see that we have most people, a majority or a quorum to do the,
Yes, yeah, I'll send that right out.
okay.
So we're talking about a meeting on the 13th for the second
Yep.
meeting of the
Right.
master, okay.
And I just remember one other thing that was in that press release, and I think it's the most important part of it, was it was informing the town of Plymouth that this document is available online. In other words, it'd be nice if we came to this meeting having read the thing.
Right.
So, so you won't have to like go through.
Right.
And I'll make sure there's copies available at the front desk chain.
All right.
It's gonna be weird not to be working on the master plan.
We're always working on the master
Yeah,
plan.
that's not true. Well, then now we will be working with the master
Yeah.
plan. which is awesome.
Right.
Changing
We've been
that.
working on it since I've been on the board.
Yeah, I remember.
My
Well,
first meeting was, like, looking at the contract from North Country Council, so, yeah. Okay. Anything else we want to include in the presentation? By presentation, I mean I'm just going to sit here and talk for a little longer than I normally do. So,
Would you like to project anything?
just confidence, really, yeah. I would prefer not to have any, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think, they've looked at the document, hopefully.
Yeah.
If not, they have copies out there. I think just what you just said, just explain, and the important part is that this is a non-binding document. I think that's the most important thing for them to hear. This isn't law.
Yeah.
Right.
It all has to go up for a
Yeah, the
vote.
maps certainly speak
Yeah.
for themselves.
The only thing I think might be nice is, like, we want people to have read the document, but I think a lot of people are not going to have read the
Right.
document. So I think it might actually be helpful to throw up, what a master plan is in a couple bullet points. What it's non-binding, the vision statement, the things, so I might, can I let you, is everyone okay if it's more like, do I have time to create a PowerPoint presentation for this?
I don't think Frank will have too many questions.
I don't
Trying
know.
to remember how it was done in the past. Do you remember,
Do
Mike?
people show up?
Yeah, people did.
They had meetings when it was there was a much bigger issue about it at Pease Public Library. They would have meetings, they had huge maps that they had out on tables.
That was in the planning for this one, though, right?
That was the vision,
Yeah.
This
whatever they call it.
was 9 years ago or 8 years ago, they had that. We did go to the senior center and had input from the citizen, which was, I still have my notes on what people said. And one thing that I'd love to bring up again, because it was so well-spoken, was what Judge Kelly said. And it might have been here rather than down at the senior center. And I read it just here on page 46, under land use, review zoning ordinance for inconsistencies and clarity. And one of the biggest things about Plymouth, when an applicant comes to Plymouth and they want to do something and it's close to the river, is what does the environmental sensitive zone mean? And Judge Kent said, we need to be clear with what's allowed and what's not allowed, or clearer. And when he said that, I automatically thought of, what does the environmentally sensitive zone mean? When Lowe's came to Plymouth many years ago, they interpreted it in the most conservative way possible. The environmentally safe zone says 75 feet, you can't have any buildings within 75 feet or build within 75 feet of the river. They not only did that, they went 500 feet back. But it really doesn't state that. It's very ambiguous what that means.
And if I can follow on to what
Yes.
you're saying, that was all straightened out at the Supreme Court level after that.
But it's still, if another applicant comes in and
But now we
goes-
have case law, and we can say, yes, you can move dirt on your parcel between,
But it also goes back to where is the line that you can build at? No one knows. And it may keep a few businesses that might come to Plymouth because we don't know where that line is that you can build. When Vice President Tasker came and talked about the new Allwell Center, and they proposed, and they never used the amount of feet that Allwell Center is back from the river. But I'm assuming it's 150 feet from the river, I don't know. And I said, part of what we're struggling in Plymouth, which is the same river, is how close we can build to the river, and we want to be environmentally conscious about where we build. And I said, and I asked him, he answered, and I said, how did your environmental and people looking at this, and did your engineers find a problem with building that close to the river, which I believe is somewhere around 150 feet, their corner is from the river? And he said, no, they found no problem with it, with building that close to the river.
Well, they're the state too, so they're totally exempt. They can do whatever they
Well,
want.
they can do whatever they want, but their environmentalists and their engineers said there's no problem with building that close.
The guidance that they were working on, because I don't believe that Holderness has anything similar to ours, was the Comprehensive Shoreline Protection Act. And
Which we all have to follow.
Yes, in essence, our environmentally sensitive zone doubled that, except for the no-build zone. It went, the state called for 50, we went to 75. The state called for the area of consideration, that 500-foot line, to be 250 feet. So we actually extended it twice
doesn't-
what the state was.
But I don't know, I don't believe the environmentally sensitive zone specifically mentions 500 feet back from the river to
does.
build.
So, Mike, I think
does.
what you're actually talking about is not the presentation, but something that should be added to the master
Well, I think
plan.
you've got it.
And at one point, I was looking for it because we talked about revisiting that exact zoning ordinance, and I thought we had put it in here somewhere.
We chose not to use the language environmentally sensitive zone because we think that that's a trigger language, and it's a trigger for a lot of people, and it raises hackles in some ways, in a lot of ways, I think, on both sides. But what we looked into, and I have to find the specific thing, but we talked about what was the spirit behind the environmentally sensitive zone, and I think we crafted some sort of language. It's like, look into, how can we best protect our water resources in the town of Plymouth?
And I agree. I think it's great to be environmentally conscious, but to a developer who may be deciding to come to Plymouth or going to Lincoln or anywhere else, or Tilton, they're thinking, well, we don't know what this means. It sounds good, but it's very ambiguous to a developer. And it may be just the trigger that sends them south or north of us.
So
That's the concern that Judge Kent had, and it's the concern that I've always had, is that ordinance probably scares applications from Plymouth. And if we're trying to bring in business, and the select board is trying very hard to bring in businesses, that trigger of those words, and then all they'd have to do is look back and say, well, who could use this to stop us? And I know that they had defined incidental. That's been decided. But it was used.
page 53, Mike, we have that in here. It's page 53, number 4 in the implementation. And I think that, evaluating current zoning setbacks. from rivers.
Exactly, yeah.
So that is something that is in the master plan.
Show me where.
That on 53, first bullet point, number 4, evaluate current setbacks in rivers.
Yes, there's no lead responsibilities in any of this section.
No, that's fine. And so as long as we know, I think that's something, and it doesn't have to be, and I completely understand you not wanting to write those words in there, but to know that that's something that really needs to be looked at, and maybe put it into the zoning if that's what you want, and hold everybody to that standard, not just one abutter that has a problem with one particular piece of land, or maybe he might have another, but that history is not known by someone new coming in here. He may say, well, I've heard, that their butters are going to fight me on this if I try to do something, so I don't want to come, well, that was just that piece of property, and he may not be able to understand all that, but if it's black and white, it makes it a lot easier to entertain an application.
I agree.
And we did discuss that, and that's why that is in there. And the same thing with other zoning things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why it's important. I mean, there's a lot to read here, particularly in the implementation part. But
Right.
if we give people time and they look and see what's in here.
And this doesn't have to be specific, and I applaud you for the work, and I've been reading behind the scenes, everything that you've been, or a lot of what you've been doing, and caught up tonight, but it should be general, like you have it. And I think that's something that after we have this done, that would be something really interesting to tackle.
I think so. Because like you say, we are trying to get new businesses in here.
It's hard.
We don't want to stop them before they even consider us.
Right, but we do want to make sure that we're protecting what we have in this town as
Oh,
well. So I
definitely.
feel like
Nobody
this is
wants
a
to-
balance between
Balance.
both of those things, is how can we best protect this quality of life, what we value here in Plymouth, but pulling in those things that will help us maintain that as well.
And Plymouth is by no means strict about, when you look at some towns, I mean, we're pretty loose as far as, what you can do here. So it's not, I don't think we're unreasonable, but there is, that problem was ambiguity, and you're right.
Right.
And
And I
that
need-
needed to be a lot clearer.
When that was first implemented and that overlay was set in place in the town of Plymouth, we had an application come shortly after that, whether it was a year after, whatever, and it was someone who wanted to build a car wash in the floodplain, inside of the environmentally sensitive zone, and built it, I believe, and a laundromat of any types of business that you can imagine in the environmental, and they were allowed to do it. The buildings were built, I believe, I could take a tape measure out there and measure 200 feet maybe from the corner of the building to the river, and it was all fresh in everybody's minds, and that was allowed to happen, as well as,
The hotel.
well, something else.
Yeah.
There's some other things that happened with
Yeah.
Phil going into that spot and everything. But anyway, that was all done, all fresh in everybody's mind. So that application, they were building within 200 feet, and then Lowe's came in and set the bar at 500. And I really think we need to define what that really is. I mean, that's some of the most important development for commercial in Plymouth. And if we're cutting it in half, that's a lot less commercial space to collect property taxes from, that they're gonna have to regain that from our homes.
Okay. I'm going to pull this back. Noted. Thank you for your input. I want to pull this back to anything else for just introducing the master plan to the public that's here. I think I'm just going to say no PowerPoint, because I think that will just be easier. So,
Although it might be nice if, and not to, you're giving the
Yeah.
presentation, but it might be nice to, if we could flash a page of, and maybe not, but one of the implementation pages, just so people can see how it works.
okay.
But-
So if we want one, I will do it. It's not going to be pretty. So maybe we'll do a nice green background so we can be consistent. All right. So I will do that. Is everyone okay with me? Just, I'm going to pull it, language is going to come straight from the master plan. It'll have the vision, it'll have the, what's in the, what the master plan is. I'll get as much of what's ever in here as I can. So does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, presentation. Anything else that we think needs to be covered in a brief presentation to the public before we open it up to a public hearing next meeting?
From experience, over 5 or so master plans that have been done, maybe less, maybe one less, there will be concerns about the agricultural zone, so be prepared whether you're gonna make changes. From everything that I've read, I don't see anything, but it's always been a concern. And the last few times, they have targeted the agricultural zone, and I still get calls about that, what is going on with the master plan. But from what I've read, it does not look like there's any proposals to make any changes, so you want to make sure that we can highlight that.
If anything, it's more celebratory and protectionist than
Right.
previous ones.
And I applaud the planning board for the job that they're doing on it.
How does everyone feel about splitting up all the implementation chapters? So as we get questions, we could have some, like, somebody, might be the, dealing with infrastructure, someone else might be natural heritage, so that we don't have to all, because it would be really helpful if everyone's really, like, reads this and knows it well enough, so as we answer questions, we can be like, oh yeah, look at this. So if I split up like pages of the implementation chapter, is that something that everyone will be able to?
I think that's a good idea, just because then we're sure, we can be confident that somebody is familiar with each section, but I think it would also be nice if we had something to add that we could all, without it being a free-for-all, but,
Yep.
you know, it wouldn't just be relegated to the one person who happened to be responsible for that section.
Right. But I think it's just, so we don't all have to read the entire implementation
Yes.
chapter again and
Yeah.
again and again
Yeah.
to know it all. I just think if everyone has a responsibility, so I think that just might be helpful. But-
Yep.
So I will delegate those out, and it might just be pages, and I'll split pages according to, you know, if something bleeds onto another page, I might just add a few extra pages, so, I'll send that out, distribute.
And Rebecca, I might extend an invitation to some of the past board members that were working on the master plan, like John Kelly, who has put a lot of effort into really the past master plan and taking a lot of notes. And I think he would appreciate being invited for whatever presentation you guys do.
Okay. Are you able to dig up old emails or for past board?
Oh, yeah, I
Okay.
have contact information for
Okay.
everybody except for Bob Tragan.
No, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna distribute responsibilities of implementation. Numbers. Okay. Everyone here, well, I'm assuming we'll have a select board representative for that meeting, but everyone else will be here at the September 6th meeting. Okay, I'll distribute that, I'll get that out in the next couple of days.
And for some, you know, I think I put September 9th
Okay.
on that letter, so
Yeah.
just make sure that date gets changed. That's the thing. that I
Yeah, I'll
was-
put the, check the date on that, okay. Alrighty.
So, when you figure out what section you'd like me to read, how are you gonna let me know?
I'm gonna call you.
Okay.
I'll do the acknowledgements page.
Okay. I think I have your number memorized.
It's something like your folks' number
Yeah.
used to be or something, right?
Yeah. I'll ask-
19, 14.
I'll ask you when we're not on the. Oh. So then, so I'm
I've
not.
already said it.
555
You're gonna be getting all kinds of calls.
I have no secrets, you know. My mouth will travel.
All right, so I'll call you with the assignment. Okay, yeah, it's very close to my parents' number, but I'll confirm off camera.
Okay.
Anything else with the master plan? All righty.
Good job, Rebecca, on this. Looks
Yeah,
good.
really, you did a lot of work. I want to
Excellent
thank
Good
you.
thing it rained this weekend, because that's what I was doing. I swear I touched my computer and the thing would just flow through like 30 pages and, yeah. I might have yelled a little. I'm trying to find my agenda. All right, here we go. Moving on to unfinished and other business. First up, request for support of a TAP sidewalk improvement grant application to DOT by the Board of Selectmen. Is there I mean, we can all read this. I didn't get a chance to read this before the
In
meeting.
a nutshell, it's basically 3 separate segments of 5-foot wide granite curb bituminous sidewalk, 2,750 linear feet along 1.5 miles of the 2-mile Highland Street realignment.
Okay.
And, you know, this is in conjunction with the rebuild that's
Yep.
doing, and it's constantly been done. Just looking for a way to allay the costs.
And I will say something about sidewalks. And smooth sidewalks is important because often people with disabilities actually can't navigate sidewalks that are in rough shape, so just putting that out there.
Basically, they're seeking confirmation that this is following the guidelines of the master plan.
Okay. I'm just scanning this quickly.
Who wrote this up?
Ally King?
I like some of the language.
What is the pedestrian safety improvement at the intersection? What exactly does that mean?
Where's that,
A
Bridget?
red circle at Highland Street and Reservoir.
Oh, Old Ward Bridge Road. That's to align the streets so it's a straight
Oh, really?
T intersection
They're gonna do
instead of
that?
being offset.
That would
In
be
order to
awesome.
do that, they have to get an easement alongside the lawyer's office that's there, some of the lands for widening and drainage. So that's a big deal. All the engineering's been done on that already, and I think all we're doing is seeking the landowner's permission at this point, and money.
All right, so you need signatures from us this evening on this?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's why I brought the
Right.
signature sheet.
So, we have a letter that is, writing to the head of this program for the sidewalk improvement that just says, we support this project. We can probably all sign it after the meeting, or I can pass it around. So, do we need to make a vote?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Vote, yeah. So, would anyone like to make a motion about whether or not we would like to offer our support to this, the sidewalk improvement project?
I will make a motion that we offer our support to the Pedestrian Safety Sidewalk Initiative.
I'd second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Did you say, Brian, that it has to have something to do with, that it does not go against the master plan, did you say?
Yeah, part of what, on the paper that Rebecca has is,
If we should put that,
no, she didn't put it in the rest of it, but by asking for, through the planning board, basically they're seeking that shows that not only is it, you know,
that can be put in
been
the.
vetted by different boards, but also is in the grand vision for the town.
All right, are we good with that? All right, if we're good with that,
You need this?
No, I'm not.
an update on the Girard versus Town of Plymouth case.
Yeah, they sought a motion for reconsideration at Superior Court and were denied. The clerk's notice date was the 9th of this month, so they have 30 days from that date to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, they'll eventually have to work their way back here if they still want to subdivide.
And I don't, what was this? Was I even here for
was
this?
before, yeah.
Yeah, just before you joined.
Oh, okay, so no wonder I
We
don't.
denied a subdivision because it had way too many impacts on the wetlands at this particular
Oh.
property, and rather than proposing an alternate route, it was denied here, and then they took it to court instead.
All right.
But, which I think it'll, if and when they do come before this board, it's nice to have, I think, a mix of people that, on the board that didn't sit through the original application, because,
You were lucky.
What's
To sit through that.
lots of lawyer talk, lots of ties here. Um,
Well, we got to go out in the woods one day.
that was nice.
It was fun.
What's my agenda again? Here it is. Okay, so unless there's any other unfinished or other business, and unless our public has any other comments this evening, yes, Frank?
Just like to add some of the questions about the special exception and the origins of it. Part of that came from RSA 47:17, which is duties and responsibility of the selectmen. And in 1961, when we established the planning board in our zoning ordinance, they transferred some of those specifics of the list of things that the selectmen would normally take care of to the zoning ordinance and the planning board, because those people the boards would be focused on those issues that were in that list. Okay, so if you look up the list that's in RSA 47, it's a substantial list of responsibility of the select board to ensure the safe and welfare of the community. And part of that is what we do in certain areas and how we do it. Now, along the lines, along the years, we've come up with fire codes, life safety codes, international building codes that have addressed the technical elements that we do. But so some of the wording of that's in our zoning now comes from that product of duties and responsibilities. And obviously, 50, 60 years has passed, and now today's world, it doesn't really quite make sense. But back then, we didn't have all of our expertise through all of the various codes and standards that we now have. But that's where a lot of that came from. And the other thing that people forget, back in those days, we didn't have the interstate, which changed the flavor of the community. We were the gateway to the mountains. And then obviously the gate's gone. And now we evaluating not only our design philosophy of planning and land use, but also the codes and standards that we use to apply them.
Thank you. All right, anything else from anybody else? Mike, it's nice to have you with us again.
Yeah, good to be back.
Is this a temporary thing?
Well, I'm the backup to the backup.
Yeah.
The alternate.
All right.
Sounds like it's time for someone to make a motion to adjourn. And I guess I'll do that.
Second it.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right.
Mikey.